I decided to do this quick as a follow-up, or part two. Realizing the horrors of the war that's coming. Is it worth fighting? Yes, it is. During the War for Independence, the Revolution, the people that went off to fight then, that joined the Continental Army, that fought with the militia, and even the ones that fought with the Loyalist militias, fought for the British, when they left home, they had the same dangers. That something would happen to their loved ones, that something would happen to their homes, something would happen to their businesses, to their livestock, their farms, and everything. But they still went and fought. What can we do to mitigate the things from happening to our loved ones? One option would be fighting a Viet Cong style war. You're civilian by day and guerrilla by night. But really that won't work in our society with the police state that's been in existence for years. They've been collecting data on us since before we were born. You know, they were collecting the data on our parents, and as soon as we popped out of our mamas, they already were starting files on us. They know everything about you. They know that you're going to fight. They know how dedicated likely you will be. Will you fight through to the end, or will you waver? Are you a fence sitter? Are you loyal to, or potentially loyal to their cause? Or are you loyal to the cause of this nation, to the Constitution, to patriotism? They already know the answers on that. Which means that eventually, if they don't get you in the first roundup or the second roundup, sooner or later they're going to be coming knocking on your door. If they think they can turn you. I've already said that ones that they know will fight, they're not even going to knock on a door. They're going to kick it in and just kill you and your entire family. Another option is your family comes along for the fight, becomes camp followers. That was common in the 19th century and before. The wife and the children would follow along with the troops. And that wife and the kids would help around the camp. They would repair uniforms. They would cook food. They would put up the tents. They would gather the firewood, get the firewood going. They would take care of the soldier when they were sick. Take care of them when they were wounded. And if they weren't doing that, they were helping in the hospital, helping out with the wounded coming off the battlefield. They were washing clothes, setting up wash stations where the troops could go to wash the dirt and the blood off. The blood being from their buddies. Is that an option? For some of us, it probably is. It all depends on where you are in this country. I could potentially see or foresee happening where a husband is in the militia, he goes to fight, and the girlfriend or the wife, whatever it turns out to be, goes with. They don't have any children, and she stays along with, and she is that camp follower. And then they have their kids during the war, and those kids follow along with. But one thing to keep in mind, they're assisting the combatants. They're assisting the military, which under international law can be used as justification for them being targeted, for them being a lawful target. Not that it'll probably matter. You know, they'll openly target non-combatants. They'll target civilians because this war is going to be a war of extermination. First and foremost. But knowing all this, is the war worth fighting? Yes. Because if we don't fight, then we and our progeny will be in chains. at least until they decide it's our turn to go to the gas chamber. It's our turn to go to the guillotine. When they decide to cut the population of the planet by 80%, and then 90%, and then 99%. That is in globalist writings. They tell their minions, you know, at one level, hey, we're going to cut the population by over 80%, and you're the chosen, you're going to survive. And they tell the next level above them, hey, don't worry about that person below you. They're going to get cut. We're cutting the population by 90%. You're going to be one of the survivors. And then they tell the person above him, hey, we're cutting it by 95%. And then the ones above them, we're going to cut it by 99%. It's all about extermination. It's all about double-crossing each other. There's talk that in the essentially what can be considered the religion of the globalists, this Luciferian type religion, that at the ones at the very top, those families at the very top, the 11 or 13 or whatever families it is that's up there, or individuals that make up the very peak of the pyramid, the very, very top of it, that they have an agreement to annihilate everyone except themselves and their families, and then once that happens, they war against each other until literally there's only one of them left. And then that one of them is supposedly supposed to inherit the power of Satan. They're supposed to become Lucifer. They're supposed to become the enlightened one. They're going to be the all-powerful for all eternity, because they were the one that slaughtered everyone. They were the most powerful. So knowing this, the war needs to be fought. It has to be done. It has to be done to restore freedom in this country, restore it to what we want it to be, to that ideal that we have of the past. And the real past of this country is not the way we envisioned it or were taught. It was not the, you know, patriotic apple pies, you know, parades and, you know, long church services and stuff and barbecues. There was a lot of bad mixed in with it, but at the same time, it's not as bad as what the leftists teach their people, where it's all about slavery and misogyny and racism and all that garbage. It wasn't that either. But we have a chance to make it what we want it to be. Before Obama got in office, we really were a colorblind society where whether people want to believe it or not, by all rights, we were colorblind. It didn't matter if you were male or female. It didn't matter the color of your skin. It didn't matter your religion. We were well on the path that Martin Luther King Jr. had preached about, that we need to be judged on our actions by the content of our character, not by our skin. We were well on that path until Obama got in. We need to get back on that path, and we need to, you know, run further down that road. We need to make this country what we envision it to be. A free nation, once again. And guess what? Under those principles, the people that we're going to be fighting, they're going to have a right to speak also, just like we do. They're going to have a right to assemble. They're going to have a right to their religion, even though we don't agree to it. They're going to have their right to bear arms also. Their right to trial by jury. Their right for protection against self-incrimination. Their right to vote. Their right to assemble. You cannot call yourself a constitutionalist and not accept that they will have rights also, that those rights aren't just for you, it's for them also. I had troubles accepting that for a while. It wasn't until I heard about a trial back in the 70s. Neo-Nazis versus the city of Skokie, Illinois, I think it was. And they were defended by, I think it was the ACLU. They were defended by a bunch of Jewish lawyers. So you had neo-Nazis who were still advocating racism and elimination of the Jews being defended by Jews, and they were questioned, the lawyers were questioned, well, why are you doing this, knowing what their ideology is? And the lawyers said in interviews, because the Constitution applies to them also. They have a right to believe what they want to. They have a right to freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, just like we do. And if we take it away from them, then do we really have those same rights? Because everyone is equal under the Constitution. And people need to remember that. We need to reset this nation. We need to... We'll purge this stuff from us. But we need to realize it's always going to be out there. We can't go full totalitarian where we eliminate anyone who does not agree with us. Then that makes us no different than them. As I've said, on the battlefield during the fight, you hold nothing back. You fight without mercy. But as soon as that enemy surrenders, the fight is over for him. You do show mercy at that time. And if that enemy committed atrocities, you don't just outright shoot them. They have a right for a trial. A right to be confronted with the evidence against them. And we need to make sure not to lose sight of that. We need to make sure that we do not become what they say we are. We don't become the racist. We don't become that ultra right wing, that totalitarian. We need to take that high ground, and it will not be easy, but we need to. Because the end result for our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, our great-great-grandchildren, and so forth, will be a nation that they will be proud of. That's how you get through the fight. All the horrors that you will see, you need to keep in mind what you're fighting for. Why you're fighting. And hiding at home is not going to make the fight end sooner, at least in a result that's favorable for us. We will have to fight. What you do to take care of your family, your loved ones, that's going to be kind of on you. That's an individual question. I can't tell you what to do. Because whatever I tell you to do, we know the enemy watches these videos too. They're writing down notes. You know, if I tell you, well, protect your family in this way, they'll just write that down and they'll come up with a way to counter that. Everyone's going to be different. Is all of us, or are all of us going to come home to find our families gone and homes burned? No. There will be some that will luck out. There will be parts of this country that will be relatively untouched, at least by the war. It'll probably be ravaged by disease and starvation. But actual conflict, it probably won't touch it very much. But then you're going to have areas where it's just a dead zone. Everyone's dead. Everyone's gone. Everything's destroyed. Whatever bug out location you have that you think is so, top secret, they probably already know about it. They probably already have it gridded down on a map. And they've probably already decided what type of ordnance to hit it with. But knowing that, are you just going to give up? Just sit back and die? No. Because then you're doing a disservice to the future of this country, to the future generations. You have to fight. We all do. And we fight to the very end. And then when the war is done, we don't go to sleep. We don't let our guard down. Because it's very likely the enemy will be back once they get reinforcements. And that reinforcements could be another generation, or it could be, a giant invasion force of drones. Essentially Terminator type things. That stuff's in development, has been for years, and there's rumors that some of that stuff has been in production and already deployed across the United States and has been since the 90s. I don't know for certain if that's true or not, but that's just some of the talk about some of the advanced weapons that are out there. Stuff like space-based weapons, actual AI computers that are decades ahead of what they tell us is in existence. Actual drones along the lines of Terminators with AI already installed, just waiting to get switched on. That stuff's probably out there. There's rumors that it is. None of us can say for certain it is or isn't, because we don't know what type of black projects are out there. I doubt even the president knows the full extent of the black projects. But we have to fight. We have to fight, put your faith in God, and pray for your families. Prepare for your families for the fight. Make sure your family knows how to garden, knows how to dehydrate. Not just in a dehydrator, but can do it, in the sun. Solar dehydrating. They know how to can foods, preserve foods. They know how to hunt. They know how to fish. They know how to take care of what they get. They know how to handle all kinds of injuries just like you should. How to handle the combat injuries, how to handle even the simple ones. How to make medicines. Know that if someone comes down with one particular type of illness, know that, hey, this herb that's nearby or this wild plant will take care of it. Or this mix of wild plants will take care of it. When you're training in a militia, you're not just training for combat. You need to also be training your families for what's coming too. Not necessarily just the combat aspect, but just the survival aspect. The survivalism, the prepping, homesteading aspect. We have to fight. Because if we don't, the future of humanity is not just dark, it's non-existent. Personally, I hope the war doesn't happen, that we see what's coming and we realize what can happen and we turn the stuff around. But I know it's not going to. The war will happen. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, next year, 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. My gut tells me that the start of it's going to be this year. Not just the little dagger war that's been going on behind the scenes between the deep state and patriots and government. I'm talking actual open hostilities. Will it be the beginning that will see us mobilized and going to the field? Not necessarily. It could be little pot shots going back and forth. The revolution burned on or smoldered on for a while before April 19th, 1775, before Lexington and Concord Bridge. There was little fights that happened before then. This didn't just come right out of nowhere. The stuff was smoldering. It was building and happening. And I got a feeling that's going to occur here too. We're going to have these little fights back and forth. Some of them will be large enough that they'll actually appear in the media and we'll hear about them. But as all of us in militia and patriot communities, prepping communities, and survivalist and homesteading keep saying over and over on all the channels across YouTube that tries to help our side of the spectrum, you need to prepare as best you can. Not just with physical items, but knowledge. You know, even if you don't have the knowledge right now, get a paper copy of a book and have it in your library at your home. Get an electronic copy of it and put it on a thumb drive to have with you in case you get chased away from your home. And then hopefully you'll be able to come across a computer, or you bring a laptop with you with a solar charger so you can still read that stuff to see what you need to do to survive at that stage. Don't give up. The horrors we see will be bad, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Don't forget that. Don't overlook that. May God be with all of you.